Welcome to the Divorce TV show live stream, and today we've got a return of Tracy Moore-Grant, who is the lawyer who doesn't need to go to court because she's created a fantastic way to keep everybody out of court. And we're going to be talking about that in depth because it's been launched already in the UK as the Amicable Divorce Network UK, of which I'm very proud to be an ambassador. Welcome, Tracy. So for those who haven't already heard about the Amicable Divorce Network, which is different from Amicable Divorce or anyone else who's saying they're doing something amicable. So let's start with defining how the network is completely unique in the world of divorce.
So we are the only organization in the world that vets divorce professionals, and that is anybody who helps parties before, during, and after divorce. And we vet all of our members on three very important criteria. One is experience in family law. We require 5-year minimum in family law. The second is that you have a resolution focus to your professional work. And the third is that you engage in fair billing practices. We feel like these three criteria are the perfect formula for what will create an amicable divorce environment for the clients.
And all of that is going to surprise some people, even within the divorce industry, because they'll say things, and no disrespect to Resolution Family Law Association, but it doesn't kick people out, does it? And you have had to do that in the past, haven't you?
Yes. So certainly people seem to meet all of those criteria. And unfortunately, if we get reports from other members or from a client that they did not have the amicable experience that they expected, we have a removal process for members. And we have a membership development team that would assess that situation and see if that member does need to be removed. And unfortunately, we've had to do that a couple of times since our inception, but maintaining quality of the network is of highest importance to us.
And that's particularly important, isn't it? Because what I love about this is so often when I've spoken to journalists, they say, "Oh, do you have any? Is it about a friendly divorce? Can you introduce us some couples who are using it?" And I go, "No, it's not friendly. These people are upset, they're angry, they're traumatized. It's the process that we're making more amicable, and that's the key to what you've created, isn't it? It's the professionals who are amicable."
Yeah, I mean, the professionals are the ones that are amicable. The couples continue to have these same problems that any other couple would have facing divorce. They have very tough emotions. They might have complicated assets, mental health challenges, addiction, all sorts of issues that we see across family law. The difference is when you have professionals who are all dedicated to helping the couple resolve the matter outside of court, and they can get to the heart of resolving these issues and take a family focused approach, it is much better for the family as a whole. Now, they may not be amicable with one another. They may continue to argue and fight and have all those same emotions. This is not meaning that the couple is singing kumbaya together. This means that they are choosing an out of court process and putting their reliance in our amicable professionals to get it done for them.
And that's one of the things that I love about it, because it's essentially how I was working anyway. And then you came along with this wonderful network, the directory, and also a fantastic system, Detour Life, a management system. Can you also explain that? Because for obviously lawyers will have their own management system, but I know in America they can sync with this one. I believe that will be coming in the UK in due course. But perhaps you could explain for those who why it is so important that the person getting the divorce needs to be in control of this, not just a lawyer.
Absolutely. Parties need to understand they are in control of how they get a divorce. They do not have to resort to harmful, expensive litigation. The choice on how to get divorced is really the last mutual decision that they need to make. So when parties choose an amicable divorce, they get access to our Amicable Divorce Network technology platform, which is hosted by Detour Life, which is an incredibly sophisticated technology and software company. And what this program does is it has each person, each party to the divorce log in, and they can sync their credit cards, their bank records, their investments, anything that you normally access online, you sync with the system. And it pulls data from that information. It would pull out your monthly budget. It's going to show your average electric bill every month without somebody crunching on the calculator trying to figure that out. It also creates then a net worth report, which is a summary of the assets and debts of the parties. And when those accounts are syncing, that is always updating. So I do not any longer need to reach out to my client and say, send me a screenshot of this and send it insecurely over email. I can just log into the system and say, oh, the balance of this today is that. And it reduces an incredible amount of time in a case. It increases accuracy for these financial matters. And it also eliminates any ability of a party to manipulate the data because it's being pulled directly from the system. There's also a manual entry option. So some items like the value of a home aren't going to be pulled from any credit card or anything like that. So you can manually enter that. Values of cars, a vacation home, anything else that they need to add collectibles. And so then that will also be part of the data. And all of our members get access to this platform at no cost.
And to be blunt, it's kind of a no-brainer way to go through divorce. It's the most intelligent way to do it, and it's all this support and facilitation. And as you've just pointed out, by not having emails backwards and forwards with attachments and just inviting in your mediator, your dispute resolution attorney, your financial planner, you're not having to pay for their time to download all of that stuff. But what I wanted to ask now is why did you create this in the first place? Because you're a busy working. You were doing litigation, weren't you, at one point?
Yes, I was a family law litigator for 18 years before I just stopped. So I am a partner in a law firm. We're north of Atlanta. I have 3 other law partners, and we have associate attorneys that work here. And so for many years, I was a litigator, and I just got sick of it. And I think many family law professionals have that same feeling. You just get to a point where you don't feel like you're helping people. A lot of the professionals were attracted to family law because they wanted to work on solutions. They wanted to help families. They wanted to, really get in the trenches with people. But family law is such a conflict-ridden area of law. You take on the burdens of your client and are advocating for them, but also the way that professionals interact with one another. The public often doesn't understand this, but as an attorney, getting these high conflict emails, my cortisol was raising 20 times a day because nasty email, and it doesn't need to be that way. It really doesn't have to be ugly. The path that my client's case would take was entirely dependent on who their spouse hired. Because I knew that I would work on a reasonable resolution. I would choose mediation. I was going to give honest information. But I couldn't say to my client, this is the divorce experience you are going to have, because their spouse could go hire some wild card out there who's out there. We have a model here where some law firms would say if the family has a net worth of £100,000, then they have to bill a third of that, £33,000. That is not an unusual attorney billing model here. And people don't understand that. And that's devastating to a family. I mean, who could even afford that? So I wanted to create a system whereby people who wanted an amicable, reasonable result that didn't bankrupt them emotionally and financially could get that result by pulling in the right professionals to help them.
Fabulous. And how are you finding it in your own situation where you're working with sometimes quite complex cases where you don't need to go to court? I mean, a lot of people hearing that, even lawyers, would be going, well, then surely they must be just, friendly clients, or she must filter out the clients the way that mediators filter out clients quite often. What would your response be to that?
Most people want this type of divorce. When people are devastated by the end of their marriage, the statistics show us that they're not looking around saying, you know what, I want my life to be tied up in litigation now for 2 years so I can't move on. And I would like to lose all of my money. And I would also really like to have a terrible co parenting relationship with this other person. These are my dreams come true. Most people would say, you know what, I would like this done efficiently and quickly and get a really good result and just move on with my life in a positive way. That's what people report that they want. What happens is they get roped into this family law system and they don't understand that the more conflict there is between them, the more money the professionals make. And so they have an incentive that is against the client's interest to increase conflict, to not send a settlement offer, to not settle that case. And so people need to be aware of that and make better choices for themselves if that's not the path that they want. And so we want to provide an environment where they can look at a database of professionals and see who it is they want to work with, use our out of court process, and have a very different divorce experience. It really wasn't difficult for me to transition my entire practice to this, because if I was talking candidly to people and I laid out the different divorce options, people would pick this time and time and time again. And so it's something that clients have really enjoyed and benefited from.
And it also has, it's a kind of fail-safe system, because one of the myths that I've been battling with here in the UK is that, oh, well, we tried mediation, but that didn't work, so therefore we have to go to court. Most of them have never heard of collaborative law, which has many great benefits, but also some limitations. For me, when I first spoke to you, your system is very collaborative in nature, and obviously collaboratively trained lawyers who trained as mediators would make, the ideal lawyers, solicitors to be engaged in this process. But it doesn't have the restrictions that there are on collaborative, because again, it's all about, if this system doesn't work for you, if you don't stay nice with each other, it's all going to fall apart and you end in court. And of course that's rubbish, because you've got these wonderful people called arbitrators. Could you say a little bit more about that?
Sure. So our process is designed for people to have many chances to resolve their case. I'm passionate that parties are in the best position to make decisions about their case, their family, their finances. And so we often have more than one mediation in a case. Often we have a mediation just about the kids and a second mediation about the money. Separate the two. Give people, two bites to get these issues resolved. And if they're not able to do that through mediation, which over 90% are, by the way, they don't immediately have to say, oh, we're going to court. That's our only option. Another option is what's called an arbitrator. And an arbitrator is like a private judge. A lot of them that we have are retired judges. Also an arbitrator. I'm not a retired judge, but it's a private judge essentially that makes a decision in your case. So if the parties have resolved some or all of their issues, but let's say they just can't resolve child support, they just can't come up with that number, this arbitrator would sit there, assess the facts. They can look at information and documents. They can hear arguments from both sides. And then they issue an order like a judge does that brings that issue to a peaceful and timely conclusion. The parties are then bound by that. And that's how they move forward with that particular issue that they've submitted to arbitration, and no need to go to court.
And what's your vision going forwards for it? Because it's still fairly new, isn't it? But it's spreading quite fast for obvious reasons.
Yeah, so I started this organization in 2019. It was just a local sort of networking group in the Atlanta area. And in late 2021, early 2022, we had a lot of requests for people outside of the state. Hey, can I join? Can I be listed in your database? Think of using me, for your cases. And so we did open it up. And we have grown quite quickly. Our goal is obviously to offer amicable divorce as a solution anywhere that people are getting a divorce. It is a complete process that runs parallel to the court system. We exchange documents. We get the information that's needed. We may call in a small business expert because we don't know how to value that as attorneys. Here we deal with addiction issues, with complex assets, very high assets, because people want to keep that private. but also just a standard divorce where people really value their money, reduced conflict, and having a child focused approach. So, anywhere that people are getting divorced, we would love to make our professionals and our process an option to them.
And another thing about this process, that there's the flexibility that it not always doesn't have to be lawyer led. So if somebody or a couple want to just work with a financial expert and a mediator and get some legal advice on the side rather than have the lawyer, they can still use the whole process, the agreements, and the philosophy that underpins the process. And could you say a little bit about that for those who are thinking, oh, this would be a good way for me to divorce? It's not fluffy, is it? I mean, they need to sign up to some agreements, don't they?
They do. They agree to maintain the status quo. They agree to use our professionals in the network, and they agree to our process. And quite honestly, as a professional, amicable divorce cases from a professional level are more difficult because you're walking hand in hand with your client to the end, working on every problem that they might have. You are not punting that responsibility off to a judge. That's easy. It's really easy to say, you know what, I don't know, we're going to let the court handle it. What's harder is to really be with your client through those tough decisions. And so, in that way, I think they get a more personal result. They get a more personalized result. We have experts of all kinds who all have access to our training, our certification, our technology software, because many people are fearful of attorneys. They think that attorneys will financially take advantage of them and increase conflict. Even if they see our vetting process, they're still sort of like, I don't know, I've heard bad things about attorneys. So we like to make all of our professionals, our mediators, even our real estate professionals take a lot of our training. Everybody, it's because anybody could be a point of contact to a couple. Often they don't reach out to an attorney first. Maybe they've been to marriage counseling, so they need to get routed in the right direction. So all of our training, our process, everything is interdisciplinary and available to everyone. And the couple really can approach any of our members to get started. Certainly, we see a lot of cases starting with a financial professional to get the lay of the land and then move from there.
And one of the other huge advantages that I see is it doesn't have to begin with a couple. I very rarely get a couple coming to me. It's one person who's saying, we need to get this sorted. And they are so keen that the other person does this in the right way. Could you talk a little bit about the requirements, some of the documents that the approach to encourage, to support them in getting their spouse to accept this as a really good way forwards?
Yeah, so most cases, you're correct, are initiated by one person. And so if that client is coming to me, I explain to them everything about the process. And if they're on board, what we do is we give them a letter and a booklet to give to the other spouse. And that can also be delivered. We do FedEx here, so we can prove that they got it. Or sometimes people want to have that conversation. And the letter's very nice. It says, your spouse desires an amicable divorce. They value having a child-focused divorce, being financially reasonable, and having a good co-parenting relationship going forward, or whatever the issues are. We have different letters for different circumstances. And then the booklet explains what the network is, how the process is different, why you have to choose a professional in the network, because we're the only ones who are vetted and have training on the process and have access to the technology. And so even if the other spouse is mad when they get that letter, or they're hurt and they have negative emotions, we very often do see over 80% of the time that when emotions calm down, they do select a professional in the network, because in the end, they're thinking, well, if I am going to get this divorce and that's outside of my control, then I would like to divorce well. Otherwise they're basically saying, no, thank you, I'd like to set my money on fire. And so at least having that very nice letter at the beginning of your divorce at a minimum can help you in that situation to show that you asked for that. But we have a very high success rate of the other spouse than choosing this process.
Which is good to hear. And what if if there's a case where the other person's already got they're already tooled up with their lawyer? Yeah. What can someone do if they say, well, I want to use the amicable divorce process? Because you don't, you can still have a go, can't you? There's an
Sort of,
approach there.
we always recommend that people, no matter what type of case they have, look at our professionals, because hopefully, the client values, they want an experienced family law professional. They want somebody who's not going to rip them off financially. And they want somebody who's focused on getting it done. So those are three ideals that everybody should be looking for in their professionals. So if the other spouse has hired a non-network professional, there's a few things that can be done. One is they can fire them. Everybody has the right to choose their own attorney. And when people know better, they do better. So they may just have not known about the network. So they always have the option to get a different attorney. That's 100% their choice. The other route would be if they have a non-network attorney and a network attorney. Perhaps that network attorney can still bring down the temperature, keep everybody resolution focused, and use their skill set that they're vetted for to get the case over the finish line.
And in fact, make it clear to the other side that this is how we're going to play the game. We're going to stick to these rules, and make it perhaps more difficult for Rottweiler behaviour to be accepted, ideally by the spouse. So can you give some examples of, because I know privacy is a big thing. So what people often don't realise that when you go to court, it's not very private. So if you, and mediation, collaborative law, and definitely this going through the Amicable Divorce Network system, there's a huge amount of privacy, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. That's what people don't understand, is if you're arguing about things in the court system, those arguments are public for people to download, look at your finances, look at what you're bickering about, can come sit in court and watch a hearing if they're just that interested. We see that from time to time. But with our process, it's completely outside the court system. So people, your issues are your private issues, your finances are your private finances. What we file with the court at the end, because you do need the court to approve a divorce, is a summary document, a settlement document, a parenting plan that summarizes your agreement, but doesn't really lift the lid on how you got there. So the arguments you had along the way, the financial experts you met with, all the different challenges that you faced are private to you, and nobody's looking it up and reading about your family.
And I guess that's why it's such a holistic range of experts on the directories, both in the States and here, because it's not just the legal side, it's not just finances and mortgages, it is that emotional aspect, because there may be some kinds of discussions that you wouldn't really want out in the court, which obviously keep them private, but you still also don't want those things messing up the amicable process. So I wondered if you've had much experience of this over in the States, because I notice you do have a wide range on there. It's not just go and talk to a counsellor, is it? It's very much client focused overall as an approach, isn't it?
It is, yes. We want the clients to look on our website and find professionals that they want to work with. Maybe they want a man, a woman, somebody close to their work, somebody who has a certain type of fee or experience or training. They can make their own decisions on who they want to work with, who they trust, and who they want on their team. So we definitely want to give them as many options as possible, and also have as many professionals listed as possible, no matter how nuanced their problem might be and unique, that we have an expert, somewhere in the world that can help them out and get it sorted.
And do you find that, what's your reception been from the legal establishment in the States?
It's interesting, I would say. It's probably 50-50. There are those who are colleagues of mine who are ready and have joined, and who I work well with, and we have a very respectful relationship, and who understand, that's how they practice family law too. And so we're able to work really well together. And then you have sort of the other half that usually there's an annual Christmas party I go to every year, and that's coming up, and I'll get multiple snide remarks saying about, oh, you couldn't hack it. Litigation is tough. It's not for everybody. And, different, comments like that, which I, never really respond to. I just think it's kind of humorous, because, really what they're saying is that they value the money more than the client. And they're trying to find a snide way to downplay, putting the client first. And I really just don't engage in that kind of talk, because I know that the work that I'm doing with the clients, being invested in their decision making and being there start to finish and not punting it off to a judge, is far more difficult and just far more worthwhile than the litigation train, which I have exited.
Well done to you for that. And it's rare. I mean, there are lawyers in the UK who've done that. In fact, some are on the UK network. But it's still a choice, and I think that's really important for the professionals to know. If they are still needing to represent clients in court, because there are times when court, unfortunately, is necessary. If someone's trying to run off with your child, for example, that doesn't necessarily mean they can't do other aspects of the process using the amicable system. Would that be fair to say?
That's absolutely fair to say. Most of our members are not non-litigation attorneys or solicitors. Most have a diverse practice. But because they have a resolution focus to their litigation cases, they are accepted in our network. And hopefully they find it very rewarding to do amicable cases, and they get more of those because that is a better way to practice law, and they enjoy those cases more. And so, but it is not an all or nothing. Most of our members, even our financial professionals, our financial experts, they deal with non-litigation and litigation cases, of course, so it's just another service that you're qualified to offer if you're a member of the network. And hopefully you will gain some clients by being vetted and having this offering that people really enjoy.
And would it be too much to say that, because I actually do believe this, that this is the best way to divorce? I mean, we're talking about a major systems change here. So we're not changing the divorce process, obviously, but revolutionizing what we want to become the just default way to go through the process, because it has the flexibility, but ultimately will have a massive impact, not just on court time and a beleaguered court system, but also on families and the entire next generation of children.
Yeah, we are seeing just so many statistics coming out that so many different groups of people really gravitate towards this process. One is millennials and younger, because their parents really only had the option of a highly contested divorce. They saw that as children. It was destructive to them. And if their marriage is dissolving, they are not making that choice. So we see millennials and younger just turning to this process, seeking it out. This is what they want. The other population that we see a lot of is what's called gray divorce, which is parties who are 50 years old and older, which I'm close to being a gray divorce myself if I got one. So, but they are looking at preserving money for retirement. They typically have been married a long period of time. They have grandchildren. They want to both go to those events. They're looking at maintaining those relationships and not wasting money. So we see that population of couples really looking for a low conflict and efficient solution, because they don't have the money to burn that they would not regain through employment. And then there's all of the other people in the middle who hopefully will also explore their options and decide that this is what's best for their family. It really is a customizable, private, parallel process, really focused on helping people divorce well and efficiently.
And saving them many, many thousands of
Oh
pounds as
gosh,
well,
yes.
which would be better used for the children. And sort of last but not least, we've talked extensively about the many benefits to the individuals who are going through divorce and dealing with the finances and the children. Have you got any more messages for professionals who support people through divorce who might be listening? What would you say to them about the network?
Gosh, we would really love to have you if you're listening and you're like, gosh, that's how I'm already practicing. And I value that type of divorce, because many people are sort of doing their own thing, we welcome you into the network to use our process and our technology and to really spread our reach so that the more professionals involved, the more experts that we can offer to the people going through a divorce, all the different factors that go into a divorce. We want to have somebody there to solve for them. So if you're listening to this and you're like, gosh, that just sounds like me. Normally people who are a good fit for us, they reach out, they're like, I need to be a part of this. I'm one of your people, so to speak. And so we like to get them all under the Amicable umbrella.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Tracy. And
Thank you.
I look forward to speaking with you again soon in the future. Just to actually finish right now, on December the 13th, 2023, how large is the network? Which countries and roughly how many professionals are in the network?
We're at about 260 right now. We have members all over the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada.
Brilliant. And growing.
And growing every day. Every day we're getting applications and new members. And so it's really exciting to see.